Good evening, everyone. If I could ask people to take their seats so we can get the meeting started, please. What? Oh, yeah, I'm not doing that. If I could ask everyone to take their seats, please. Thank you very much. It is 5:32. I wanted to call the Committee of the Whole meeting for the Village of Northfield to order on Tuesday, March 24th. Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Orth?
Here.
Trustee Whitaker?
Here.
Trustee Fowler?
Here.
Trustee Gallen?
Here.
Trustee Yedis?
Here.
Trustee Elfman?
Here.
President Mendrick?
Here. I wanted to take a moment before we start to introduce our Cook County Commissioner, Scott Britton, who is here with us this evening. So, Scott, thank you for being here with us. The next order of business is public comment, and I would ask if anyone has something they want to talk about other than Hap Road to come to the microphone. Otherwise, we'll cover off public comment on Hap Road when we get to the presentation and we've all seen the visuals and everything that they're presenting, and then we'll have some back and forth with questions. So does anybody have anything else they want to cover right now? Yes, Don, please come to the podium.
Hi, Don Graff, Lower East Side, resident here for 41 years. I have a couple things on Hap Road, but I'll wait on those. The only thing I want to bring up now, I'm shouting out to our Public Works Department, especially their pothole patrol. They did a fantastic job. That crack and crevice crew continues to quickly cover a lot of ground while knowing how to seal the deal. We can all comfortably drive ahead, enjoying safer and more reliable roads around town. And here's the question. Did the pothole patrol pave the way for a smooth spring and summer? You bet your sweet asphalt they did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graff. Anyone else want to follow that, or should we move on? Okay. The next order of business is approval of the minutes from February 24th, 2026 and March 10th, 2026.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? No. Okay, great. All right, the next order of business is the presentation of the Hap Road Committee report. I want to take just a minute to ask all of you to, along with me, thank the commission and the committee for all of their work over the last several months. When I made those phone calls and I asked people to help us with this and get organized around Hap Road, I was thrilled to see so many people say yes, and thrilled to see so many of them here. But I want you to just humor me. I want to read everyone's names quickly. The co-chairs, Barnaby Dinges and Debbie Pappas. The members of the committee are Alicia Ballar, Kelly Chang, Ed Elfman, Francisco Polito, Maureen Hughes, Andrew Yedis, Sarah Munoz, Pam Papadopoulos, Ashish Seth, Jennifer Suker, and Samantha Tiedemann. So before we start, I just want to thank everybody. So again, the way I'd like to do this tonight is we're going to ask the committee to give us their report, and then we will ask anyone here in the audience for any comments or questions that they would like to make, have a little back and forth, and then we as trustees will have a bit of a conversation amongst ourselves about the report, and we'll see where we get to in the allotted 50-minute time period. So we will need to hold to our normal routine of 3 minutes for each individual's public comments, but we'll do our best to make sure everybody's heard. So I'll turn it over to Debbie. Are you first on the agenda? Thank you.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Pull that down a little bit and just try to stay close to it.
Is that better? Okay.
Everybody in the audience okay? Okay, thank you.
All right. Good evening, President Mendrick, trustees, Village Manager Brennan, Commissioner Britton, guests, neighbors. My name is Debbie Pappas, and I am here speaking to you tonight as the co-chair of the Hap Road Improvement Committee. I'll begin with some background information on our group before our committee member Francisco Gonzalez Pulido shares a reimagined vision of Hap Road, and then co-chair Barnaby Dinges will present our recommendations to you. So here's the facts. Our committee was formed late in the summer of 2025 after discussions with Cook County ended regarding the prior Hap Road proposal. We are 13 residents with diverse backgrounds and skills, but what unites us is that we are all neighbors. We are invested citizens, and we are honored to represent this community in this important work. It's been a privilege to work alongside this group, and I thank President Mendrick and the board for getting this committee together. I was going to thank everybody by name, but President Mendrick already did that, but I personally thank you all for working with us. So over the past several months, we had 7 public workshop-style meetings. Agendas and meeting notes were posted online on the village website. Transparency drove everything we did. This committee dedicated significant time, significant effort, and we were able to meet the village board's deadlines for your budgeting.
Debbie, could you speak into the microphone?
Yes, of course. I like to move, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so at our first meeting, President Mendrick charged us to think big, develop a vision for the Hap Road corridor from Willow Road south to Winnetka Road. Please remember this, we were not looking north to the Central Street corridor. We were not looking west to the now vacant Mariano's and beyond, and we were not looking south of Winnetka Road. Our task was clear, examine the Hap Road corridor. Hap Road from Willow to Winnetka Roads. And we were asked a very simple but important question. What should Hap Road do for our village? So as our committee began discussions, 2 priorities quickly emerged: safety and aesthetics. Safety means clearer crosswalks, better traffic flow, and slower speeds. Aesthetics means creating a true Main Street, a place that is inviting, comfortable, and reflective of Northfield's character. We also recognize the importance of attracting and supporting our local businesses, of creating a place where our residents can come to shop, dine, and gather close to home. So to move our ideas into recommendations, we conducted outreach to both residents and businesses through 2 surveys that were focused on our committee's themes of safety and aesthetics. With help from our village office, the surveys were emailed and a short introductory video was released. The survey was open for 2 weeks, but we quickly saw impressive results. 893 residents, or 32%, and 48 businesses, or 24%, participated in that survey. Our video had over 1,100 hits. But even more meaningful than those numbers was the depth and the thoughtfulness of the feedback that was provided in the open-ended survey questions. The message was resoundingly clear. Our businesses and our neighbors are ready for improvements to the Hap Road corridor. There was strong alignment between the survey responses and our committee's vision. Residents and businesses alike want a safer, more beautiful downtown, one that is walkable, bikeable, and inviting. A place where we can spend time, connect, and enjoy our village, a place that we can proudly call the comfortable corner of the North Shore. So those are the facts of this engaged committee. But beyond that, something else happened during this process. Our community became more excited and more engaged, and they are now eagerly looking forward to the future of our town. And some may wonder, well, will anything really come of our efforts or our recommendations? I do not share that cynicism, and I really do not believe it reflects who we are as a community. Northfield has historically been known by its can-do spirit. right? Its initiative and its heart, and that same spirit is still very much alive today. So our committee believes in your leadership and your commitment to moving our village forward. I urge you to build on the momentum that has developed and to act on the recommendations you have before you. As we approach our village centennial, this is our moment. It is time to act, right? It is time to reimagine Hap Road. It is time to look forward to its next 100 years. And now it is my sincere pleasure and honor to introduce to you Northfield resident, committee member, and world-renowned architect, Francisco Gonzalez Pulido, who will share a vision of what a reimagined Hap Road could become. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Oh, how do I do this? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, really. Thank you, President, and thank you, Board, and thank you, everyone, for being with us today. It's been really wonderful working on this thing, really, with this group. I'm here really to sort of present the vision that we created for Hap Road. But before I do that, I would like to kind of invite you to reflect on something. And I wrote a statement here. I don't know if, probably some of you know this, but research really shows that and proves that actually the visual aesthetic of the constructed environment plays a really crucial role in the way we manage emotion and our psychological well-being and happiness. And in that sense, when I think of the power of architecture, which is what I do, I've been an architect for 30 years, an urban planner. I work in 4 different continents. I apologize. I'm a little nervous because in general, I'm surrounded by cowboys that have my accent all over the world. So, but I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And I know the power of architecture. It's not only about motivating people or inspiring people, but it's also about shaping our identity and our values. And I think there's a great opportunity here in this project to do that. There's many ways, that one can do the things that Debbie was actually talking about, right? Safety, accessibility. I just brought this example because to me, this is really the perfect example between good design and not good design, right? We can just place a sign that establishes a speed limit, and that's okay, right? But this is not going to take us any further than this. Or we can actually design a space holistically that because of the signals that we're getting from the environment, we suddenly start behaving different. And I think this is the opportunity that I see here. We have great businesses, we have great services, we have great infrastructure in terms of what we offer in this area, but we don't have great space. We don't really have an experience. This is what we're lacking. And what really makes a city great is that. It's an experience. There was a study, actually, when I was getting my master's degree. There was a very interesting study that Harvard conducted where they went around the world, they photographed all these amazing spaces, and they showed them to people, to different audiences, very quickly, almost like this, the way I'm doing these images, very quickly. And it was interesting that people, 70% of the people selected this. Green, chair, picket fence, sculpture, river, simple things. Nobody really was so interested, well, nobody, but very few percenters were interested in the building that twists and turns and the eccentricity of architecture. Modern architecture actually was not that important. And I think what I see here is that we can implement, Barnaby is going to talk a little bit about this, a series of very simple strategies to bring that experience that I think the town needs to feel more unified. At the end, as an architect, when I was looking at our canvas, which is basically this, I couldn't find the center, and I was really worried. I thought, okay, we're talking about a town, we're talking about the center of town, but there's nothing here. Nothing in this image. I purposely put it in white because I was trying to see what is the gravitational point of this plan, and I couldn't find it. And again, I mean, how can we get this to work? Well, it's a series of steps that can be implemented in phases, finding opportunities almost in every corner along the road to create really a meaningful experience. We know that at the end, it's not about only creating something memorable, but what is the meaning of this? How can we build identity? How can we build a place that we feel connected to, that we build new memories, that we continue writing our history? These images, I think, I mean, I can, in the future, if someone is interested, I don't think we have the time today, I can explain in detail what are we trying to do here. But as you can see, at first glance, the idea is to get, you know, people closer together, the streets, narrowing the street, increasing the lushness and the feeling of greenery around the space, looking for a space that is, as Debbie mentioned, accessible, safe, ecological, why not, fun, definitely, and why not? I mean, I think there's a discussion right now in the context of Mariano's where my feeling, I don't know this as a fact, is that we're not particularly desired, and I'm wondering why. And I think it's because we're not providing the infrastructure to be desired. And the desire doesn't really come from architecture, it comes from space. You know, if you have a supermarket that wants to come into an area where something is happening, they might feel more attracted to it. We don't, you know, because there's that infrastructure that is created by public space that is going to bring people. And we know from examples around the world that when you bring people to a place, people spend money, people spend time, and that actually starts creating, you know, a place. Denmark, for example, has invested more than, I think, 12,000 kilometers of infrastructure in cycling and pedestrian spaces. And you can see they combine scooters, bicycles, cars, trees, people in one space, unified by a simple paving pattern. I was envisioning maybe in a portion of the Hab Road, we can have a pattern that connects the sidewalk, the street, the other side of the sidewalk, and even the parking lot on that little shopping area that we have. And that suddenly, just by a paving design, we feel that we're creating a place. Spain has actually a great example of a city that has won an award for 8 consecutive years as the best city in the world. And you know what they did? They didn't invest on anything except they got rid of cars. They said, no cars here. That's all they did. 8 consecutive years as one of the best cities in the world to live in. Pedestrian, pedestrian, pedestrian. This is a great example, Lancaster in California. They renovated 9 city blocks, 9 blocks of this street. I'm going to show you how it was looking. It's really awful, the way it was before. They invested $11 million. They increased the revenue of the shops along the street by 120%. 800 residential units came, and they were built around this area when this was finished. Car accidents plummeted by 90%. Property value increased by 10%. And you can see this is the way it was. And when you think about it, it has nothing to do with architecture. It's all about green and public space. I don't know if this looks familiar to you. Let me go back. Oh, can someone help me to go back here? Okay, here. You see, this is Lancaster. This is us. I think we look a little better, but I think we can do a lot of things. Now, I know we can achieve this. I am convinced that we can get there. And we prepared this image because I was always feeling that as we're working on this project, we have a goal, right? But I think this is a call for action. We need your support. We need your involvement. We need that you believe in what we're doing, because I know that we can get there. And in October, we will be 100 years, as Debbie was mentioning, and I think our celebration could be really symbolically cutting the ribbon of our next 100 years. And I think I would love to see a place that, by the way, I forgot to mention this, you know, I used to have a partner, a German architect. He unfortunately passed away 4 years ago, and we worked together in a project in Germany, in a city that, in Berlin, is a city that was already well established. It had a center. You know, there was really no need for a new kind of urban forum or public space. And we did something that kind of changed the dynamic of the city. And all we did was to create a forum where continuous public events could be held. And I think I could imagine that closing Hap Road, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 times a year, and bringing people there together, you know, you know, it's not only about, obviously, the retail experience, right? It's about bringing people together to celebrate what it is to be in Northfield. And I think this is actually, I'm sorry, I'm getting too emotional, but I think we're bringing this vision, and we're really asking for, I guess, more than your support, your belief, that you believe that this can be done, that we can do it, and we're here to make it happen. Thank you.
Good to see everyone. Happy spring. I feel like a football coach here. I've got a few different plays to run. I just want to start by, first of all, thanking this committee. I know it's been said, but 13 really smart, talented, hardworking people came together in the dead of winter and focused 100% on our village. And, you know, they did it for everyone. They did it for everyone, and we were asked by you. So, you know, we're a funnel. We did a survey, and I have to say the survey way overachieved. I would have been happy if we got a couple hundred responses. We got 950 businesses, and I strongly encourage the board and the public to read those comments, because we got some really smart people in this village who communicate really well, and they put a lot of time into it. And so we're poised here. And Commissioner Britton, thank you for being here. Really hope we can work together on this. We really need a partnership with the county. And, you know, since it's the centennial, let me just share a few things in recent history. I think we can say 2 years ago, our residents said what they didn't want on Hap Road. And now I think they're saying what they do want. And they're doing it in a very positive way. And I'd also say, in the history of our village, and yes, we've been determined and we've overcome things, but we're also a village where things have been done to us, we've been done to. Got the Edens Expressway dividing our town, we got Willow Road, we got these transmission wires, a whole range of things, railroad track that ends. Now this is our chance to do. You know, we can be the doers. And I guess that's my challenge to the board. Let's be the doers. And I'd say Hap Road needs a champion. It needs champions, and I hope that's what the board is, but it needs a champion. It needs someone who will wake up every day and say, we're going to make progress on this road, because we can do it. We definitely can do it. So our committee, when we met, it's a huge topic. We broke the conversation into mobility, which is pedestrians, cars, and bikes, and aesthetics, the look, the feel, the vibe. So everything we did talked about that. And we boiled our plan down into 2 phases. One is near term, and let me just say, having sat there with you, and I also want to commend Trustees Yedis and Elfman. You two provided tremendous leadership on our group. And as a committee, knowing that you are going to be here as sort of ambassadors carrying forward makes us feel really good. And our committee's work is done today as we pass this on to you, but I want you to know we're not going anywhere. We are here for you. We're here as reference if you want to know why a certain recommendation was made, why a certain recommendation wasn't. We want this to be the first of sort of that conversation. So I really want to make this quick. You guys have had the report for 6 days, and I'm sure you have your thoughts, but this is more for our vast YouTube audience, which tunes in and needs to know what's in the report. So I'm going to try and hit the highlights. And we broke it down into phase 1, near term, inside of 2 years, and more longer term. And let me point out that many, and this is where my football chart is, many of the things recommended in here cost little or no money and can be started tomorrow. Others cost money. And, you know, let's be clear, we will have to spend money on our downtown. That's what successful villages do. And so that hopefully will be part of this at the end. So let's get into the recommendations. First of all, the number one thing in the survey was, let's clean up our downtown. Let's clear the weeds. Let's get rid of the litter. Let's enhance the landscape. I think 85% of residents said, let's clean it up. We got a great public works department in town. Let's show some pride in our village and really clean up our downtown. Let's slow down traffic on Hap Road. People have talked about a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's interesting that there's not even a speed limit sign in front of the library. So cars take that turn off of Willow Road onto Hap, and they're speeding up into our downtown. There could be a sign there tomorrow that says, slow down. And the possibility of maybe talking with the county about lowering the speed limit. Creating safer ADA-compliant pedestrian crossings at Orchard Lane, Mount Pleasant, and Hap Road Park. Are these crossings, and again, they could be made safer quickly and need to be. Plan and unveil streetscape upgrades, and this could be linked to the celebration. I learned, and that little triangle park just south of where we are here is Inspiration Park. You walk by, and President Mendrick, we walked in today. It's a beautiful space. I didn't feel inspired, but it could be, and that triangle park could be the center of sort of centennial focus for our village. It literally is in the heart of downtown, and then right across from it is sort of a corner in the middle of our village that's kind of overgrown, so upgrade the landscaping there. And this next one really could be the linchpin, and our commissioners here pursue conversations with Cook County on what we can do together with this stretch of Hap Road. We don't want to own it. We don't want to necessarily maintain it, but it is our downtown. And our residents have said they want to hang out here. They want to rock around and make it walkable. So while the county might have a vision that it's overflow traffic from the Edens when things get backed up, we don't want trucks and cars and speed. We want this to be, as Francisco's pictures showed, a place where people are stopping, walking, lingering. This is our downtown. And it's that important. And so those conversations can be positive, but I think that will really set the tone on maybe what we can do and how quickly on Hap Road. Another idea, and the village might be doing this with what's going on at Mariano's and Central Street, enlist an urban-suburban economic development. It can be a staff or a consultant, and this is part of that championing process, but someone who will take the vision of Hap Road and Mariano's and Central and bring it all together so that the downtown marches forward the way it can. You know, you'd think with all the great gatherings we have in our parks, Clarkson and Willow, that we'd all be sick of each other, but our residents expressed a desire to get together in our downtown. I don't know how many of you have been to Arlington Heights during the summer. They close off their downtown to cars, and people just walk around and go to the restaurants, and people love it. People come from all over. So our residents are saying, we want to hang out downtown together. And so I don't know if we can do it a dozen times. You know, Francisco is the ambitious one in our committee, but certainly several times. And the residents are saying they want that. Now more phase 2 to 4 years. What could we do? The library, we met with some of our interested parties in town. They talked about a dedicated sidewalk from the Bosworth Bridge to the library. They have some incredible plans there that they want to make the library more of a hangout, and, you know, bike racks and benches, and the idea of people walking from the bridge to there. And we have people on the committee who said, why stop there? You know, have the sidewalk go all the way to frontage. So the concept of east-west movement through our village was talked a lot. And that included talk about walkways through our parking lots. We in Northfield, we're famous for our cut-throughs through the neighborhoods, but if you want to get around our downtown, you better know how to cut through a parking lot, and we do it all the time. The idea of starting a conversation with our landlords, because I think they have an interest in having their parking lots safer and more aesthetic too. But to make walkways through our parking lots that are safer, aesthetic, redesigned, that have more of a feel of a place that you could hang out. And again, we are the comfortable corner of the North Shore. I didn't make that up. And then activate the signage committee. President Mendrick, you and I were on the committee that did signage and identified some signs, and that was all kind of put on hold during the Hap Road process, but we identified sort of welcome to downtown Northfield signs. One of them was going to be on the village-owned parking lot by the Starbucks. You know, maybe a banner there, something near the Starbucks, something near the Chase Bank, something at the south end of town, but the idea of welcoming into our downtown with signage. Another concept, you know, with all the bike traffic and people in our parks, is using some color and some directional signage to direct people to our downtown commercial district. So if you're on a bike, you know, coming up from the south, or you're over in the park with your kids, but, you know, something on the sidewalk that says, you know, food here, drink here, you know, downtown here, people don't know how close they are. All they got to do is get over the river, you know, get over the bridge, and you're here. So have some fun with that, maybe use some color. And then, believe it or not, and I know you guys got sick of me talking about this, but privately funded public art. Probably the best example in our community is what happens on McCormick Boulevard in Skokie, where they took essentially a strip of grass by a busy road and a sanitary canal and put eye-catching public art, and people now, it's a destination. They ride their bikes, they hang out, and then they go from there to a nearby restaurant. So the idea of reactivating a Northfield Foundation that would be focused on public art. And again, that would be entirely privately funded. There are people that would give to that because they want to see, you know, we've got great spaces in our parks and in our downtown for that. And then the final recommendation, but not least, and hopefully our Go Green friends will like this. There she is. Hi, Ann. The idea of people really like the recycling and garbage receptacles over in Clarkson Park. And so when we have the events out there, but to have some of those, you know, strategically placed on Hap Road, because we're going to have more people hanging out on the benches, and you know, they're going to be enjoying their drinks and partying in our downtown, and we want them to responsibly dispose of their things. So that is what we have in terms of recommendations, but I think, you know, the challenge to you is how do we get essentially from here, what you see out there when you go out on the street, to there. That is the challenge, and hopefully the report that we have put together will help you in that way. We're available, but again, I think the most important thing obviously is the conversation you guys have among yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Barnaby, thank you very much for that report. It was excellent. I would like to hear from the public that's here tonight. If anybody has anything they'd like to share, thoughts, questions, comments, please just come to the podium, state your name for the record. Kick us off, Don.
Pretty soon I'm going to need a shuttle bus to get up here. I attended the first and final meeting that they had with this committee, and it was phenomenal. After seeing them in action, I cannot curb my enthusiasm for the members of the Hap Road Committee who have consistently created concrete solutions utilizing their impressive street marts every step of the way. The committee's efforts have merged into one well-paved plan. When any potential detours or speed bumps came up, they knew exactly when to hit the brakes and take the high road. This feels like a turning point for our community. The results of this committee's tireless teamwork will no doubt avoid traffic jams while steering the Hap Road corridor away from any potential congestion. And I really love this part. They'll do it, and it won't be in a roundabout way. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. You know, feel free, if we touch on something, raise your hand. We're going to have a little bit of a back and forth conversation here amongst ourselves, but also, you know, again, want your input. I'll start. I just have one question for the committee members. I think that Debbie and Barnaby both touched on this, but I'd like to hear from anybody else who might want to address this. How did you find this committee and working together, and is there anything that the village can do to make this experience better? Because I don't think this will be the last time that we use these ad hoc committees. you got a lot of work done, and, you know, that the board was able to step back and just entrust to a committee. So anything that comes to mind that we could do differently, anything you learned, just anything at all that any of you would like to mention? And sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
Jennifer Zucker, I'm on the committee. It was a great experience, given the hot topic that was given to us, and I think we all came together. One of the things that I thought was really helpful was the leadership we had with Debbie and Barnaby together, and so I would recommend co-chairs, because I think it's a lot of work, and this way they were able to divide up that work, and they did all the heavy lifting, I got to say that. Also, I thank them for keeping it positive, and it was a very good experience. I think the other thing I would suggest is, I think we lost one, was it just one person early on? Because I think when appointing people to these committees, there should be a time frame, and this was a little bit open-ended. I mean, it was a couple months, but I think the person that left was just unsure about the time commitment. So that should be clear up front.
Yep, thank you.
That's it.
Thanks.
Hi, Beverly Smith, 772 Hep Road. I attended a lot of the meetings as chair of the caucus, but I was not on the committee, but we were very supportive of the ad hoc committee. It's in our current platform that we would like to see more of these. And as Barnaby mentioned, highly educated community, lots of smart people. So you find out you have someone like Francisco right here in the community. So that does reduce costs. We're all conscious of costs right now. But I think a lot of us would have liked it if it could have been in this room, so that more people in the public could have been aware. We did, but we were very pleased, the caucus was very pleased with the committee. So thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Andrew and Ed, I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit because you sat in on all the meetings, to just maybe give us some of your thoughts on the findings and any questions or any follow-up you might have.
Sure. I think when I ran for this was the sort of committee and opportunity that I was looking forward to. And being surrounded by so many smart and talented people with different perspectives, I think really helped shape a vision for what we can achieve. And I think, like Francisco and everybody else mentioned, it's an opportunity to help create more of a sense of community within this community. We have so many great events, but if we have kind of a compass guiding us, we have a center point, I think it will help us in so many different ways for the residents, the businesses, and everybody passing through. But I think this ad hoc committee was great and a good opportunity. I'd love to see more of them. There's definitely momentum since we've started this committee. We've had a lot of development come in, and I think a lot more development opportunities are coming in. And I know of others that, I'm sure you guys have been reaching out to or have been reached out. But this is just a great opportunity. I think it's got some momentum, and I think the big task is now, what can we as the board do to move it forward? What kind of actionable items can we say when we look at the budget, at our meeting later? Where can we kind of piece some of these things into, and what can we start right now?
Okay, thanks.
I'll start by saying, first of all, thank you everyone who was part of this committee, because it's important that we have these discussions, we start moving forward, we start figuring out how to make this Main Street corridor really happen. A couple things, observations on the committee we put together. I think it was really smart having people from across the village, not just in one small area or anything like that, but making sure that all voices were represented as best as possible. Folks that had school board experience and park board experience and other parts across the village, I think was really vital to this process, because we're making sure that a lot of folks were represented. If you look at the survey results of the breakdown of families, just couples, single, all those, I believe our committee did a pretty good job of representing that as well. A lot of folks some of us had really young families, and our view of sidewalk safety is probably a lot different than maybe some other folks. So I think that was a really, really vital part of this whole deal. The hard part with committees is when it's open-ended is funneling it down, as Barnaby said, we have to funnel it down. I think this committee did a great job of that. In the future, when we do some ad hocs, maybe it's a little bit of a list of here's what we're trying to get to maybe funnel us a little faster to it. But overall, we started with basically this big open, what do we want to do? And got it down to this report of here's some actual ideas. And I think that's the important work of the committee that was done here. But overall, I thought this was a great way to do this. I know I talked about this at one point. I don't think we're done by any means having this committee meet together. I don't know if it's just going to be all of us picking which local establishment we want to go have some barley pops at. But in reality, the work of this committee, I think, will continue for quite a while until we really get this corridor where it needs to be, frankly.
Okay, questions from other trustees or comments that anybody wants to Sorry, questions or comments from any of the other trustees that you want to share?
I'll pipe in. Commissioner Britton, thank you for being here tonight. I hope as a village we can create a partnership and work closely together to achieve, this process, because it was a process, and the survey speaks volumes, because I don't think we've ever had a response to a survey that we've given like that before. So I think there's a lot to be learned from that. I will thank the committee as well. I think that listening to feedback, I still feel kind of upset about something that happened months ago. Francisco came to a board meeting and he did a presentation, and I don't think anybody really knew what to say. And I saw him out walking a couple weeks later, and I said, I'm really sorry. Nobody thanked you, but we appreciate what you brought. And I appreciate what you brought here because you brought a vision. It's really interesting to see this picture up here, because years ago, Northfield used to do this. They wouldn't shut down Hap Road, but they'd shut down Orchard, or they'd shut down Walnut, and they'd have, whether it was the firefighters' spring dance or the Northfield Art Fest, and believe it or not all the trees, but downtown looked like that. So I think that, it's funny sitting here looking at this and thinking about when I grew up in Northfield, looking at this picture, and we did that and we can do it again. And it's this reoccurring theme as well with the Park District. They want to put in a Frisbee golf course. Guess what we used to do as kids? Play Frisbee golf at the Northfield Park District. It's coming back. I really hope as a board that we can grab the low-hanging fruit right away. And I think we saw that in the surveys. I mean, that report was amazing, being able to see the results, and there was some sarcasm, which added some humor to reading all of those pages. But the reoccurring themes of cleaning up the downtown, which you have all touched on, I mean, that's easy. I know in partnership with Go Green Northfield on a yearly basis, the kids from the school help us clean up the downtown, but I think we as a village need to build on that. But also setting some goals to how do we keep this train once it starts going forward. And I talked with President Mendrick this afternoon about some ideas that I had, and really just like this needs to be in the limelight. It needs to be addressed continually. Whether, I hope we can maybe, after everybody has time to digest what's been said tonight and what board members have had to say, next month we can reconvene and talk about it again at a committee of the whole meeting. And maybe make a pledge to the community, whether it's an agenda item where we make a pledge, or what do we, I don't remember what the term we used on the phone, but so that we're committed. Codify. We're committed to the community that we want this vision to become a reality. So thank you, everybody, for all you've done. I truly appreciate it. I think that Northfield is an amazing community. My wife is retiring, and we were ready to move to Florida, and we're like, you know what? We're staying here. So I appreciate everything that's gone into it, and this gives us hope. And one last thing, I know the Skokie Trail, that was our hope when we got on the board. We're like, yes, this is going to be done by the time we're off the board. Obviously, that hasn't happened, but I think as a reality, even though I have a little over a year left, we can see progress made with things in this plan. So thank you very much.
I just had a quick question, Barnaby or Debbie. You know, there were a number of survey results that said, we really don't want you to do anything. How did you interpret those? Did you have a thought about that? Was it just, we don't want to update, we don't want to do anything? I know there was some concern about construction traffic and all that for businesses, which we certainly understand, but.
Don't let me back up here, I still have place. No. You know, that's Northfield and anywhere. And again, I think the message is not Northfield's a bad place. Northfield's a great place. But there are some basic, simple things that are right in front of us that we can do that for whatever reason we haven't. But that, you know, I would say 10 or 15% of the respondents were essentially, I like it, don't touch it, status quo, and don't spend money. There's that group, but I would say on any campaign that I've ever been involved in dealing with a community, you're going to have that group. And one thing I think our group was very careful to do is we don't want anyone to feel bad or feel insulted. I think this is an ambitious report. We are ambitious for Northfield, and we should be ambitious for ourselves. And if you want it later, and maybe President Mendrick, I'll give it to you, this is the free stuff on this side, and these are the things that cost money. So,
Thanks. Thank you. Any other comments? Matt?
Yeah, a comment and a question. I think is really exciting about the committee. It shows the power of the committee to have people engaged in the community. And Ed talked about, you know, the diverse backgrounds of the people that were on the committee, but there were also people that weren't traditionally involved in village stuff, and they've become engaged in it. So it's a great vehicle for new people to get engaged. So I just want to put it out there. I think it's just a really powerful vehicle and very excited about that. So that's my comment. And my question, it's a kind of a specific question about an area. So my passions are on the board have been the sidewalk stuff and the library. And so there's a stretch of sidewalk on Orchard, as we've sort of jokingly called the sidewalk to nowhere, right in front of the library. And you guys have touched on it a little bit, and I was wondering if you can kind of just give me a little bit more flavor for what you sort of envisioned for that kind of strip.
I'll speak to that just because I'm very passionate about that, because I live just on the other side of the bridge, so I walk over and walk on the road quite a bit to get here every time I come to a meeting. What we as a group envisioned, and I did have a question, I wasn't sure exactly what the library meant by the sidewalk. I think it was more making sure there is a sidewalk that we can get to from Bosworth Bridge to the library. Right now, everybody just walks through Mariano's parking lot and the sidewalk in front of the building. So whatever happens there, that has to stay open. I don't know if there needs to be a new sidewalk. But then from that point, I think the parking lot behind the shops on the west side of Hap Road is underutilized. And that needs to be beautified, and signage needs to go in to allow people to know where to go. There's one sign that says P, but I think that a lot of people didn't even know that's Village. So from that, if we can get people parking there and then walking sidewalks on the north and south side of Orchard that tie into these crosswalks, and then there isn't really a way to get to Hap Inn without walking through the parking lot. And I was in Arizona a couple months ago taking photos of people's parking lots where they had, and sending them to Debbie and Barnaby saying, this is what I envision. for private parking lots too, having sidewalks that go through the parking lot that are integrated with their parking. And then I think from there, to get from the library to here, the crosswalks, and then from here, there really aren't any sidewalks that go straight through to Stormies or that way. So I think that's what we were just talking about, more parking lots and better utilization of the parking spots that we have downtown, and try to get people to come in that way and connect those things. Does that help?
It does, because that stretch was something that the sidewalk committee looked at and deferred because of what was going on with Hap Road. So just kudos to your committee for taking into account like a lot of these other studies and reports that have come before. I think there's always this feeling like sometimes we have these reports and then they go nowhere. So the fact that we're building off of the other previous reports, just again, kind of kudos on that front. So yeah, it did answer.
And I personally even went further and said if there, and we didn't have in front of us, and I'm not sure if it was relevant, but maps that showed, like, is there a right-of-way in front of some of these buildings, like on the south side of Orchard, or is that private property that goes to the street? And, clearly it's not really used for anything, but maybe we can have some public-private, partnerships where we could put sidewalks in. So that's also the other part that I was thinking of.
Thank you.
I think we need everybody. And along those lines, too, we did, I think it was mentioned, the surveys were divided up between residents and businesses. On the business side, I was on the business committee, so we divided up our committee into a resident and business committee. And I followed up with about 13 or 14 businesses that asked for some type of follow-up and sent out emails, and I got some responses back, and I did talk to a couple people, more detail, and they just want to see more, their biggest concern was transparency and knowing what was going on, but also just more foot traffic and better signage, and as you're saying, maybe taking advantage of being so close to the bike trail and having people come here and park and bike from here to Skokie Lagoons and things like that. So I think they were coming up with some pretty creative ideas to try to, get more foot traffic downtown, or bike traffic.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
I think, just very quickly, I'm getting more relaxed now, yeah. That's a good question. I think, something that I've been thinking a lot about is that in the context of Mariano's and the rezoning that might happen there, when we're working on this thing, we're really focusing on the road, right? The road, and what is along the road. But in reality, when I show that picture, that what is sort of like the area of study, if you will, right? I think what this requires is really a master plan. And for example, the incorporation of that sidewalk, as small as an issue as that is actually an opportunity, right? I mean, in Denmark, for example, they do sidewalks, they paint them pink, right? And they go diagonally from a parking lot, right? And it's just that differentiation of the paving pattern and how you integrate the trees and the scooter and the levels of the sidewalk, and suddenly it becomes really fun to go through this thing, right? It's not like, okay, let me go in front of Mariano's because that's what is there, right? I think since we have so many parking lots around the corridor, I think there's an opportunity actually to make them part of a bigger master plan. I think right now we're just focusing on the line, but it's not the line. It's everything around the line, actually. Mm-hmm. And Mariano's is a big part of that story, too. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That was,
We had so many great ideas, right, as we were thinking about things, sidewalks from here, pathways through there, but we're not experts, right? And so one of our recommendations to you all was to consult with experts. Francisco knows this stuff too, right? But I didn't, right? I don't. And I know you have a team of people who can do this. So use that recommendation as well, because there's so many creative ways that this can be done. We just can't do it. We can tell you what would be great to have in town, how to get there, not quite there yet.
Right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just because I'm a politician and I can't avoid a microphone. Madam President, members of the board, when I was reading this report, and it's a wonderful report, I was reminded of the fact that I've lived in the village of Glenview for almost 30 years, and we've had 4 downtown plans, I believe, in that time period. Just now, we're actually doing it. I have a feeling Northfield's not going to let that happen, and I know it's been talked about in the past. I also know that part of this is complicating because you've got the county involved, but I'm the county, at least for this body, and I'm the one who, and the buck does stop with me. And I do believe that once we heard about, you know, the really significant concerns about the roundabout, we listened to that and we abided by the will of the people of Northfield. That's the way this is going to happen. I'm just also very glad that what I see here is a practical, aspirational but practical solution to the issues of downtown. I didn't say anything about building Hap Road underneath Hap Road. That's not going to happen. I think that is, I think to the committee's credit, that they're not going to propose something we can never actually do. There's stuff in here we can actually do. So let me know when it needs to be the time for us to sit down with our Department of Transportation and Highways and to talk to the village and to the leadership here to make sure that everything that we can aspirationally aspire to really break this down into ways that we can partner. There are resources. We still got the money that we didn't spend on the roundabout. Just tell me where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please, another comment. Come to the microphone, please.
Carol Richel, 811. I guess I just really want to thank everybody. And I want to start by thanking the Hap Road Committee and all the people who were part of that. When they had the meeting at New Trier, whenever the heck that was, which is where we first saw your presentation, and, you know, so much gratitude to you. So I guess I just have a whole bunch of questions. Okay, and piggybacking on what Debbie said, okay, all kinds of ideas have been presented, experts. So now is it up to you guys to decide who are the experts that we are going to employ? Are we, hopefully, going to employ Francisco's team? I mean, I'm just putting, I'm sorry, what? I mean, I'm just putting it out. And again, I mean, I was just so blown away with him from the very beginning and from everything that he has done for our village. He really, really cares, and he has these incredible ideas. So I guess part of me wanted answers, so, I mean, I can't have any answers, but so wherever it is that you guys go, I guess it's now up to you to decide who you're going to be consulting to really get, you know, the bam, bam, bam is what we're going to do. You know, Barnaby talked about many things that are going to be quite easy and not very expensive. So anyway, thank you, everybody, and thank all of you guys. That's it.
Okay, thanks very much. Oh, yes, Pam, come on up.
As a member of the Hap Road Committee, I felt very passionate about the fact that beautification hit my building, and it was front and center. When I look at the outside and I think of all the trees out there, there was a time that I had boxwoods framed into those older trees, and unfortunately, they could not survive because of the roots of those old trees. I really want to be involved in beautification because I do feel, again, where I'm positioned, it's going to affect the look of the aesthetics majorly, unlike the other building I have in the end. So if somebody were to give me direction, I'm all in. Just let me know what it is I can do on the outside to especially make it look more attractive aesthetically before the centennial. So if it's involving the garden club, just to give me advice, whatever it is, I'm here and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to at least, you know, start the process.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, I think we've come to the,
Can I speak? I haven't.
Sure, yep.
I'll be brief. First of all, Commissioner Britton, thank you very much for those inspirational words. I think the group that's here and watching and our board is very appreciative of you being here tonight, and especially those inspirational words. I think that means a lot. There's been a lot of people that have still kind of been worried about the potential county roundabout issues, so I think you've completely put that to bed. Thank you very much. I want to thank the 2 trustees that were on this committee, as well as the committee, Barnaby and Debbie, for all your work, Francisco especially for all your work. I think our focus now will obviously be do what we can do that doesn't cost a lot, and then look at the plan that you presented to us, and I think there's a lot of great ideas. I was astounded by the results, and I think Barnaby was too, not speaking from that the survey results were so good. Not too many times when you do surveys, the caucus has done surveys, we've done surveys to get those kind of numbers. And I think to your point, President Mendrick, that you're always going to have people that are going to say, do nothing. I've lived here my whole life. Some people don't want any changes. So I think our goal will be to make and prove to those people that these changes aren't going to cost them money and that we're going to be able to make great improvements to the community. And I was also here the days we shut down Walnut, shut down Orchard Lane, had huge parties. It was phenomenal. It didn't impact the businesses so much because it was at night and a lot of those areas where the bars were. So I think that's something that potentially could be done, maybe not as often as Francisco would like, but some kind of a combination of that. And if it works out, I think it'll bring more people to the community. So again, thank everyone for being here and for all the work that everyone's done. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Okay, so let me try to lay out what I think the next steps are for this, because I think that's really what everyone's interested in. And I didn't start this committee to let this die on the vine after the report was given, so I want to be clear about that. What we would like to do, and in conversation with our village manager today, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 plans lay out some pretty specific ideas that you would like us to consider. So what we're going to do is, this is going to go back on the agenda in April. We are going to noodle around some of these ideas. There's no other way to say it except that staff has to do some work for us, really take a look at some of the recommendations, and come back in April with some ideas, short-term, long-term, try to get a few monetary costs around things where we need to. And then I think after we have some more conversation, we can, as Tom said, codify this report, that it's something that we want to aspire to and continue to work on, and make a presentation to Cook County and ask them, suggest, tell, whatever the word is, that these are some of the things that we'd like to consider and we would like to work with them on. One of the big ones that I've seen repeatedly is the speed limit, and I've already had a conversation with Commissioner Britton to just, inquire about that. And his answer was, you ask and we'll do the research to see what we can do about that. So we'd like to have, after the April meeting, a list of 4 or 5 short-term things that we can really talk about in terms of, is this on village right-of-way? Is this on county right-of-way? And if, I'll give you an example. If we want to plant a tree, is that going to take 6 to 8 months of engineering studies to do, or can we somehow agree on something that where we can work together? So that is my commitment. I hope it's the commitment of my fellow trustees that we can come back to this in April. Someone that really needs thanks, that I should have done it at the start, but Patrick Brennan attended every one of these meetings outside of the thousands of other things he does for this village. So Patrick, thank you for being there, for providing assistance, guidance, whatever the committee needed. And Melissa, again, I can't thank you enough for getting our email constant contact up and running, because that made a difference to the results of the survey, at being able to send this out and really get responses back from the community. So that's how I'd like to leave it tonight. I'll give everybody one more shot to say whatever they need to say. Anybody here around the table or anybody in the audience? Yes, sir. Come on up to the microphone, please.
My name is Mike McIntyre. Anytime I hear a politician say he's got some money left over, it's pretty exciting. So I was just wanting to marry the two together in terms of how long is that kind of funding that may be left over? When does that end? And then the other comment I wanted to bring up was, we've attended a lot of meetings, and I thought they were great, very impressive. And I think that one thing that I took away from it was, and I've been around here for 37 years, is that boards change every couple of years, things change, stuff happens. But the one thing that Francisco brought to this was a vision that really needs to be thought through in the whole. And there's a lot of stuff going on with Mariano's and a lot of stuff going on. So when you think about the next steps and that type of thing, keep in mind that maybe you really truly do have a phase 1, but think about phase 2 and 3 down the road. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I would, just to follow up on that comment, and thank you, Mike, for prompting me there. You all know there's a lot going on in the village. We are in the middle of design concepts for the library, so we are working with the library district to come up with what that new building might look like. We all know that we have vacant property just to the west of here that we are working diligently with our community development people to try to get a solution for that property that provides sales tax revenue as well as meets the goals and the objectives and the aspirational thoughts of the 2040 plan. So I think that this vision for Hap Road could meld well with the 2040 plan and how we move forward with our community. A lot of the things that this committee brought up are underscored in the 2040 plan. So I do think we have a really good blueprint for moving forward, and I hope that you will be patient with us a little bit, because government doesn't run like, you know, our own personal businesses where we can just write a check because we want to. What we do here is impacted every day by budget constraints, sales tax revenue, you know, COVID a few years ago. So we have to be thoughtful, but we are all committed to continuing this process and continuing to work on this with all of you. So again, thank you so much to the committee for sticking with us and working on this so hard for 7 months. And we'll come back in April with some thoughts and ideas. And Commissioner Britton, I'm not going to make you answer that budget question tonight, but I'm guessing that it'll be something that we want to cover off at some point with staff as well. So, and thank you again for being here. It was really important to me and to the community that you hear firsthand what everyone had to say. So thank you. All right, on that note, we are going to move on to item number 5, which is discussion of the lead service line replacement program.
I can't imagine why.
Was it him?
Yeah.
Was it him?
All right, so for those of you still in the room, we'd like to just get reorganized here and let Patrick give us his presentation here on the lead service line replacement program. So Patrick, go ahead.
So, Melissa, if you advance to slide 1 for me. Thank you. So what we're speaking about tonight is something I touched on just a little bit during our capital discussions, and that is our lead service line replacement program. It's something that the state required by Public Act to eliminate all lead service lines from the water supplies throughout the state. So Northfield is in that program. The state and so many agencies have determined that the health risk of having lead in your water, consuming lead, is huge, and especially for children. As I did a little research into this, younger brains have the ability to absorb more heavy metals into the system, into the bloodstream, and that's part of why they're so susceptible to lead poisoning. But the state said, you've got to get these out of the system. For Northfield, for the town with a number of service lines that we have containing lead, 2039 is our deadline. And they said we must submit a plan to eliminate the lead service lines from our system by that date at no less than a pace of 7% per year. So in response to that requirement, the village in 2024 came up with a plan, started responding to the IEPA as the state required, put a plan forward to do 12.5% per year, and put basically a 50-50 program in to replace lead service lines up to a max of $10,000 per home. So what are we talking about here? Here's the picture. You see the line in blue. Far left is, in red, is a village water main. Moving to your right on the screen, up into the house is a meter. About halfway through the line, you see a vertical line going up. That's what we call a buffalo box, B-box, curb shutoff. It has various terms. But the residents own from the red village service line, the water main, all the way into the home that's owned by the resident. People often forget about it because they can't see it. But for homes constructed prior to 1982, 83, it was pretty common to put lead water service lines in. That was the material everybody used. So now they found the health impacts, homes that are of an older variety, this needs to come out. And in Northfield, we have about 87 homes with lead service lines or an unknown condition. And Public Works has been really making some great strides in the last couple of weeks, identifying the unknowns and trying to get that updated on the list. But this is a picture that shows you where in the village those homes with lead service lines are, to the best of our knowledge. So in 2024, this 50-50 program started. Since it was put in place, only 6 homes have taken advantage of the program, 4 of them in 2024. I don't believe that this is an issue of marketing. The village has been putting information out. We send an annual letter out to people. You have a lead service line, you must replace it. Here's a 50-50 program, and we're not seeing much activity. So there's 2 parts to my request tonight. One is that we remarket that program and reaffirm it at the 50-50 with a 10,000 cap. A slight renaming to the program, but we also put prioritization in there. And what I'd like to have as a first priority is areas where we're doing a water main project. During the capital discussion, we talked about replacing the water main on Hap Road and Harding. In that area where we're looking at a new water main, there are currently 10 homes that have a lead service line that needs to be replaced. So your 50-50 program is budgeted at $100,000 a year, cap at $10,000. We've got enough money in the budget to do 10 homes at 50-50. However, what I'm trying to do is get information out to those homes as soon as possible, because we're talking an expense to the homeowner that could in total range $14,000 to $20,000 for a lead service line replacement. Even under the 50-50 program, that's a lot to ask from a homeowner. So I'm starting to plan out a year ahead. What happens after we do these 10 with a HAP program coming up? And the fact that we're not meeting EPA targets for getting the lead lines out of the system. So as you read in the packet, I kind of presented the bookend of options. The village could pay for all of the service line replacement, right through to, we tell the village residents, you must replace your lead service line by this date or else. The 50-50 program is kind of in the middle of those 2 options where we pay for a portion of that line. But even with that, the impetus to get a resident to say, oh yes, I'd like to spend $7,000 on a line that for me is currently working, or I don't have kids, I don't see as being a problem, we're not getting over that bar. So we've got this push and pull that the residents don't want to voluntarily spend that much money for something that effectively is still working. The EPA is telling us, IEPA is telling us, you have to get these out of your system. How do we get that to move? And how do we do it at a reasonable pace? So as you read in the packet, what I'm recommending we do is energize the 50-50 program a little bit by starting to encourage this replacement at a quicker pace. And what I'd like to do is start by neighborhood, where we have groups of homes together. Say, look, hey, you 10 people live close together. The village is going to bid out replacement of your lead service line, and we, the village, are going to pay from the main to that Buffalo box, so that section by the sidewalk. What that does is kind of balances out for one home. They've got a long service line because they're going all the way across underneath the street to the sidewalk on the other side for a connection. And the other homes are close to the water main, so they have a shorter line. So we're going to take that out of the system. We will pay for that and contract out to have that work done. At the same time, we'll ask the contractor to give us a price to replace the resident main, Buffalo box to house, and give the resident that pricing. And say, you may use your own contractor, but here's the pricing we got, and we're coming in 10 months or a year, and this needs to happen. So please plan now, contact a plumber, get your options in. So that's the primary difference here, is we've gone from kind of, I hate to say a voluntary 50-50, but the residents choosing their time, to us saying, look, the state's not giving us any option here. We've got to do 7% per year. So we're going to pick 9 or 10 homes. We're going to do them in a very close order of proximity to get the best pricing possible, and we've just got to move this forward. It's a big ask, and I would imagine there's going to be some residents going, I don't want to replace my main, or I don't have the money. It's going to cause some angst in the community. But I also don't see that we have a lot of choice about just sitting back and basically punting and not doing anything. So the reason I teed this up the way I did and put the board action together is to kind of get a discussion from the group and see what we should be doing.
You mentioned that it's mandated that 7% a year are meant to be replaced.
Correct.
What are the penalties associated with that? And who would be penalized, the village or the homeowner?
The penalties question is a good one because it's not super clear, but I can tell you what the state has made us do if we fail to send out letters in time or we fail to test enough. There's a community-wide notice that comes out. They get closer and closer to fining, but as the supplier of water, the state says we're responsible for making sure that those lead service lines come out of the system, even though they're owned by residents.
Well, that explains, I mean, I guess that's the simple answer. So your approach, I like it. I think it's more aggressive and we still have some time. So if that approach doesn't enhance, us getting to full clearance, then we still have time for other actions. But I think do it incrementally, right? But I don't think we have to be too harsh yet, but I think this is a good idea.
Well, I think it also has less impact on our budget because it's over a number of years to get this accomplished. We don't have to come up with all of it at once. We can spread it out over time. So I think it's a great next step for getting to people to participate. And I often wonder if people even saw the notices. I don't know. Sometimes you think you get something in the mail, and do you actually open it and read it? I don't know. But I like the more aggressive approach right now.
Could we send something out with those 87 homes as far as in their water billing, that notice or that public information per se about the dangers of lead, even if they don't have people living there, they're still dangerous. And I mean, they have their family over, their grandkids over, maybe there's some way we can kind of twist their arm and make them realize, and maybe another stab at public education, at least for those homes. We don't have to waste the money on a full-out village-wide program, but maybe key in on those, they get a water bill, put that information in their water bill and kind of remind them and maybe put in your plan as well.
Yeah, we actually do one better by giving a direct mailing to those homes outside of the water bill.
Okay.
Important notice, so they recognize this, and it's mandated by the IEPA.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because frankly, a lot of people have their water bills on auto pay and maybe don't even look at their invoice. Yes, Matt?
I support your approach. I think it's great. I had a question. If a resident wanted to use their own contractor to do it, is there any plans or blueprints or anything that they would need from the village to do that? If the village contractor is going to do it, I assume you take care of sort of I don't know, the oversight of it, and then the resident would pay for it. But if they're doing it themselves, what do they need?
Sure. So a resident would typically hire a plumber to do the work. That plumber would submit a permit application to the community development. The permit fees are waived. They still have to pay the escrows for fees. But a resident could come in tomorrow with a plan to replace their service line. And Chris Stanky in Steve's office would talk them through the information on the 50/50 program.
I have a few questions, just to kind of wrap my head around some of this. So we're assuming, so we budgeted 100,000 for this, right? So 10 houses, 50/50, it would be a $20,000 project, 10,000, right? So do we have a plan if, let's say it only cost 10,000 total and we did 50/50, so it's 5,000 from the village, then we'll have excess funds left over? Is there gonna be some sort of, you can come in as a homeowner and say, hey, I'm ready to do my project right now, and is there money in the program and I could do it now? As long as, like, almost trying to use the funds that are in that budget in this year is kind of my thought process. Because maybe we get a year where we have 17 houses that want to get the work done, and I don't think we're going to stop anybody from getting ahead of the curve, right? So that's question one. I have like 3 questions, but.
Thank you for not giving them all 3 and then having me try to remember them.
I was going to let you,
So the first one is, it would be a great program to have for me to come back to you and say, let's amend the budget for the water and sewer fund to add more dollars to it.
So many people showed up.
The water fund generally is net positive every year, so we've got the room to be able to add program funds if necessary. The budget that you'll be considering later tonight has 100,000 in. With those 10 homes on Hap Road, we should be able to do the 50/50 and cover them completely. When we design the project, we'll come forward with the same approach that Maine to Buffalo box will be part of the project cost for the water main. It'll drive that up a little bit, but I think we'll get better pricing as we go through.
Second question, for folks that maybe will struggle to pay some of it, because I mean, 10,000 is real money for a lot of folks, right? Is there anything we could have in place of putting it onto like their water bill over a certain amount of time, or add into their property taxes, or just trying to think outside the box if folks don't have that kind of cash sitting in a checking account?
Yeah. It can't work on the property tax, I don't believe, unless you set up a special service area for a larger area.
Yeah.
However, I've spoken to our banker, who has said that they would consider working a special program for residents. So if they need to pay it over time, they would work with them on that. Yes.
Yeah. And then the last one I have, businesses. So we're talking all residential. Is there any plan in place or anything we're looking at for non-residential that might have that, whether it's clubs, churches, businesses that might have the same issues?
Based on my review of the map, I'm not aware of any businesses that have lead service line issues. So our program is definitely all intended for residential, but the business, I don't think it's a problem currently.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And that's often because their service lines were larger to start with, and they wouldn't have been made out of lead if the larger size is more than likely why that's that situation.
Gotcha.
Do we know if, when you're doing a home inspection, if this is something that an inspector uncovers, like in the home sale? I know we had that one instance recently, people just bought the home, they had no idea. So that doesn't generally come in a home inspection.
And a home inspection report would detail you have a lead water service line.
It would.
It would. If we were a community that had a real estate transfer tax, we would put a requirement on that you put a disclosure out with your home, making that more obvious. But we don't have that situation, so we don't have that trigger to be able to get the disclosure out.
Okay. Any other questions?
If we magically got ahead of that amount per year that we have to have for the EPA, would they give us credit towards that so that the back end of it, if there were less getting done over that time period, we wouldn't be in trouble with them, so to speak? Or, you know,
I don't know, but I would certainly make that argument at the time if I had to.
Okay.
I think under this program, we should have everything done in 8 or 9 years.
Okay. So looks like a nod of everyone's head. We're in agreement moving forward with this plan.
Okay?
Okay, great.
Thank you, everybody.
Anything else anybody needs to talk about? Anybody from the audience? Otherwise, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Just one final thing I was going to say for all of those out there on YouTube watching, if you want more information for the Hap Road Improvement Committee, all of that's available on the website for the village, and all the minutes are detailed there, so if you want more information, it's all there.
Okay. Motion and a second?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All All right, we will be back here in about 7 minutes for the village board meeting.